That means that every experience that you have on the outside of you is just somehow a projection of what's happening inside of you. So if all of a sudden in your outer world, there's something like a three-eye atlas that's showing up. And by the way, everything by your higher self gets encrypted. Even three-eye atlas is actually tied to third eye atlas. And what does Atlas do? Atlas lifts up the earth, right? So third eye Atlas is actually the third eye activation that will lift up the frequency of Earth. I can't hear you right now for some reason.
No, I'm just, I'm just fascinated by what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that just resonate?
Deeply, deeply.
Right? So what's actually happening then? What it's doing is it's basically acting as a reminder for all of us of who we are and why we're here. And so how is it basically encrypting itself? Well, of course, it's showing up as an, you know, extra solar system object that's basically come in from the outside, which assumes then that there is an outside, right? It assumes then that there is a larger universe for us to experience, or universe for us to experience, and that maybe there's some sort of message coming in. I mean, there's so many different aspects of this that tell you it's not your standard comet, right? There's no way that it's a standard comet because, first of all, it's got this funky name, which of course we think it just means the third interstellar, object that's come in from outside, but there are no coincidences in this universe. We don't associate Atlas meaning anything other than lifting up the earth, but actually that's what Atlas does. He lifts up the earth, right? And also I would say it's lifting up the new earth and the split. This is basically becoming the emblematic split between lower consciousness and higher consciousness existences. So the people that are in higher consciousness are seeing the third eye atlas for what it is, which is a conscious uplifting device that is a reflection of our subconscious mind that's basically projected into our outer world. And the people that are thinking that it's some sort of dystopian psyop, or that might be thinking that it's a something untoward, or even an alien armada that's coming to attack us. The truth is, as you move and start feeling about how the universe works around you, once you realize all of this, that your thoughts become your reality. Your belief system becomes your reality. You don't get what you deserve in this life. We don't experience the earth as it is. We experience it as we are. So as a result, whatever you believe is what you're going to get. Just like Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you will be right. So if you see something in a fearful way, it's going to become that manifestation for you. So this is literally the ensign or the symbolism of the split between old earth and new earth. How you perceive it is actually defining what you will experience.
It's also interesting because you're referring to, in the crux of that, you've also said the earth is sort of ascending into its sixth dimension as well. And so is this part of this Atlas uplift that you're referring to?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's all symbolism and it's emblematic. What I believe it means for the earth to be raising in the sixth dimension is that we're going from an experience that has been about breath, about mirror recursion in the fifth dimension, and not everyone's in the fifth dimension, right? There's probably tens of thousands of people now that are in the fifth dimensional experience. That's an experience where you've transcended beyond duality, where you realize that everything has its equal opposite. You realize that even all the dark aspects of your life that have come up are actually there for a reason, and that you programmed it all. And there's nobody else to blame for it except for you. It's taking radical responsibility for your life. And so people that are in that mode and no longer blaming, but rather contemplative and looking at, okay, this is in my outer world. Why is it in my outer world? Start breaking down the words. What is it? Third eye atlas. Okay, three eye. That's kind of funny. Third eye. Yeah. Are we supposed to be going through a third eye awakening? Yes. And Atlas, the job of Atlas is to lift up the world. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. So we're not really thinking about it. It's just like the other interstellar object that's come in right behind it, which is called Swan R2. And why does Swan R2 exist? Well, because it's a representation of our North Star position moving from Polaris into Deneb, which is the Swan constellation, right? The cosmic womb is Deneb. So
Wow.
all of this symbolism is actually telling us something about what's happening inside of us. We're starting to learn to balance our masculine and feminine, and that's what the cosmic womb is all about, is learning the balance. And this is where mankind starts to either take on its wings as angels, or for those that haven't decided yet to ascend, and everyone will, eventually everyone will, they're going to basically either continue out their experience here or they're going to get reassigned to another planet. And that's basically what's coming. And for the people that move in the fifth dimension and the six dimensions, they're literally going to take on their light bodies. And eventually, people won't be able to see us. Only people in the same dimension will be able to see us. So this is what people refer to as the rapture, right? And this
Right.
is coming now. So this is where the Earth is now moving from this fourth dimension to the fifth dimension to the sixth dimension. And it's the first time that Earth has done this ever. So we're actually just kind of in training now with where the Earth is going and what the Earth is doing. And so that's why everything seems so whacked out. Like, it seems like, what is going on? Everything is upside down. Yeah, because we're in this transition phase. We're literally at the crossroads between timelines right now. And that's what 1111 was. 1111 was basically signifying for those people that are in the fifth dimensional love experience, they're not afraid of Three Eye Atlas. For those that are afraid of Three Eye Atlas, they're in the lower dimensional experience, period. Now, there's still movement that people can go back and forth, right? I mean, they mainly, if you're already in one, once consciousness expands, it basically takes on a new form. And it can't shrink back into its older self. Consciousness can only ever expand. It doesn't contract again. So eventually, it will play out that some people are going to move from this lower experience, and I'd say it's going to be about 144 million people are going to end up moving into this fifth dimensional experience and into the new Earth. And that's what the transition is happening right now.
It's interesting you mentioned rapture because also part of your teachings recently have been centered around judgment and how it operates. And I did a podcast recently, and it was fascinating. We were talking with Aaron Abke, talking about the final judgment, and for most people in the collective zeitgeist, it means, oh, there's going to be like this wrath of like, there's going to be a final judgment on humanity. But the presentation that he made was actually the final judgment may just be that we ascend so much in our awakening that we actually transcend judgment. Like we no longer judge, like it's the
That's what it
final
is.
judgment.
Final judgment is not the last judgment of God over us. It's our last judgment. It's us no longer judging, because the way we transcend and we move into the higher dimensions is by transcending judgment. We have to also transcend the need for eating, right? We have to also transcend all these aspects of ourselves that we didn't allow ourselves to feel and we weren't allowing ourselves to speak of. This is the age now where every single trauma that we've experienced that has ever been felt but wasn't allowed to be felt, and every word that needed to be spoken but wasn't allowed to be spoken, must now be both felt and spoken. Because the pathway is actually towards authenticity. It's radical authenticity. That's the dividing line. The people that are going to go into the fifth dimensional new Earth and the higher dimensions are the ones who have allowed themselves to become radically authentic through acceptance and love.
People often ask the question about, as you said, there's going to be potentially people occupying a very different dimensional plane, and they'll just be missing each other. They're basically living on two different dimensions. People often ask the questions about their family, like what happens to families? Like, do you start missing a member or something like that?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that, as we move into higher dimension, we'll end up disappearing to them. And already it's happening, right? So some people that are moving into the higher dimension, other people are looking at them and saying, hey, it's like they've disappeared somehow. They're just not around. They may still see them, they may still see them in existence, et cetera. But eventually, as we activate our light bodies, our frequency is going to be so high. You cannot see a frequency unless you're resonating at your retinal level at the frequency of the object you're trying to see. So this is why extra-dimensional and interterrestrials and extraterrestrials that are actually here all along on Earth have not been seen. It's not because they haven't been here. It's just we haven't been in the frequency to see them. And those people that are moving into those frequencies are having more and more frequent sightings of UFOs and more frequent sightings of extraterrestrials and spiritual beings and interdimensional beings. It's not that they don't exist, it's just that we haven't been able to see them. Look, let me ask you a question. What color is a crow?
Black.
You think it's black, right?
Mm.
You think it's black. What if I told you a crow is not actually black?
I'm feeling I was in like a Mandela effect experiment.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you what I mean. This is the actual color of a crow.
Is it that rainbowy kind of color?
Yes, it is, because you haven't seen it at that frequency. That's my point,
Wow.
right? You just simply haven't seen it. So everyone thinks crows are black. They're not actually black. Okay, they're just rainbow iridescence, and snakes do the same thing. They're black snakes. So what we perceive as something dark and ominous and ugly and bad is actually a whole nother spectrum of color that we haven't yet perceived. Birds, when they look at other black birds like this, they know that they're multicolored because their eyes are resonating at the frequency of this iridescence color. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, in alchemy, we use the crow as the Negredo, which represents the darkness of finding your shadow. And so you could apply this analogy to your shadow as well. We think our shadow is all the dark aspects of ourself that we've rejected, but maybe when we learn to accept it, it becomes a golden iridescence of light and experience, because we've turned our negative experiences of suffering into the gold of our soul evolution. When we start realizing that it's through the judgments, it's through the suffering that we experience enlightenment. It's only through those, right? So judgment becomes the source of our suffering, but suffering becomes the source of our enlightening. That's the true alchemy. When you realize that every single thing, we didn't come here to have an easy existence. We learn through hormesis. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. If I'm an athlete, I'm not gonna, if I want to be a mountain climber, I'm not gonna be happy climbing the hill behind my house. Oh, it's pretty nice. But I'm not like, climbing El Capitan over here. But if that's what I did, I wouldn't be happy just climbing this hill. I'd want to climb El Capitan. Freestyle. That's the point, because in the moment where we take the risk, where we almost die, is the moment that we feel the most alive. I remember I got chased once by a herd of elephants.